Brexit, such a disaster that even Boris Johnson now admits he got it wrong. Or maybe not.
Is Brexit a crime? Strong and stable.
But his impersonator and protesters outside Downing Street believe it can be stopped with a second referendum on the final deal from the negotiations between Britain and the EU. Like Will, a student, speaking for a generation that voted overwhelmingly to stay in the EU.
Brexit ain't no hallelujah.
Young people do feel very strongly that this is the wrong direction for their future, so are perfectly entitled to mobilise and try and persuade our parents and grandparents, many of whom, like mine, voted Brexit but are just not sure anymore that this is not the right deal and not the right direction for our future.
But are the older generation persuadable? I travelled from London to the English market town of Spalding, where 70% voted to leave the EU. The challenge for those trying to stop Brexit is to change people's minds in towns like Spalding, and that still feels like an uphill struggle.
So there's a majority. You can't go against that. I don't think you can, anyway.
We've said what we want, so let's get on with it.
The man who led Spalding's Leave campaign says this month's agreement on the transition, covering British-EU relations for almost 2 years after Brexit, means the end is in sight.
I think that is the final nail in the coffin for the Europhile diehards who want a second referendum. The transition agreement is in place, and I think what we all need to do now is rally around the Prime Minister and the government and work together in the national interest to secure the best possible deal.
But back in London, not much sign of rallying round. Another anti-Brexit group sets off on a battle bus tour around Britain, supported by some big names in British politics.
I accept that whatever happens now, in terms of any effort to stop it or to take it to a different course from the one that people think they voted for, I accept that's very difficult, but I think millions of people believe the country's made a terrible mistake and that this just can't, this is unsustainable.
The referendum was meant to settle the issue of Britain and Europe for once and for all. It doesn't yet feel it has. And if die-hard Remainers have learnt one thing from their anti-EU opponents, it's this: never give up on a seemingly hopeless cause. Barnaby, Phillips, Al Jazeera, London.